I want to throw it to you guys. What do you think about that concept, the snowball effect of white supremacy, and the fact that, have we, even as Americans, even after 1964, 1965 Civil Rights Voting Rights Act, even after we were recognized as human beings, we're still dealing with the momentum of those decisions that were made during the Enlightenment?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll go first. I would agree. This is sort of cyclical reasoning. We've done two things and created a catch-22 as the result. We've made the biological factors that make people that categorize people into race inextricable from the cultural, like the culture of places in their and what we consider to be savage or developed, or for lack of a better word, the early onset of respectability politics. So
Hmm.
early, and what Michael was saying about the civilization and the civilizations in Africa, that became cyclical reasoning for why there were no civilizations in Africa or even in the New
Mm-hmm.
World. It was, well, these civilizations do not look like ours, and uh we've decided that ours are the most advanced, for lack of a better term, the most advanced. And since they don't look like ours, they are therefore less advanced, and therefore the people who created them, their cultures are less advanced, which must reflect upon their biology because they are biologically, visibly different. And
Hmm.
we have yet, like, as you said, we've yet to be able to come to terms with the fact that America in general, in the last 100 years of America, has racism and that colonial mindset into its structures. So even if people aren't taught these things, there exists a secret curriculum. There exists a
Hmm.
subconscious curriculum being taught in schools, being taught by our media, that is might as well be teaching it. It reinforces these notions. When you don't see Black people reflected, or Black history reflected, except for once a year, when you don't see Black people on TV in positive roles, uh, it's tantamount to teaching it. It's the same thing. It results in the same kind of effect.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way, right? I think the easiest way for me to see it, are European beauty standards that are so entrenched in the minds of every single American, black, white, or other, such to the point where we have to unlearn the expectations of that European beauty. We have to unlearn, we have to deprogram ourselves to realize, like Malcolm said, who told you your hair was too kinky? Who told you your nose was too fat? Who told you your lips were too big? Like, it was embedded into our psyche from birth. Every generation gets a brand new dose of what beauty is supposed to look like, and that's just one example of the systemic structure, the structural force of white supremacy. And I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead and take it, Brandon or Michael.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to add is that along with speaking of the momentum of white supremacy, one of the things that we often see is one of the phenomena we see is each time we make progress in slowing down the momentum, when we take a breath, there's an
Mm.
infrastructure of power players that works to reverse anything we've had. We saw it when at the end of slavery, at the end of the Civil War, we saw this explosion, for lack of a better term, this explosion of terrorism within the southern states against the Reconstruction system. So
Mm-hmm.
eventually that fell apart. All right, we saw it after the civil rights movement, after the killing of once we thought we killed Jim Crow, the founding of the modern conservative movement. They worked underneath
Mm-hmm.
the covers to knock out the things that we did that were repaired. Some of the things that some of the forward progress we made are slowing down the momentum of white supremacy in this context. And now here we are. They did such a good job that we're fighting the exact same battles that we fought during the civil rights movement. We're fighting it now with the Black Lives Matter movement and all the adjacent movements. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to keep in mind that, and I think the young people today have a better grasp of it, that we just have to keep pounding away, no matter what's said, no matter what anybody thinks. We just have to keep pounding away at the system. Otherwise, the minute we stop to take a breath, things are gonna start going backwards. All right, and I think that's a big part of the Trump phenomenon. But we're not going to discuss politics right now. But I just wanted to add that in there.
I mean, I think you make a really good point, and it's this, that we may have changed the explicit narrative, but we still exist in a world that is largely the same socially, materially, and politically, in terms of like the realities that people are put into. So it becomes very hard to tell kids that, well, Black people are equal, a class, when they can look around their world and see that to not be the case. I believe everyone here has read Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr.'s book,
Democracy and Black.
And in that he really lays out this old notion that the state structures, whether they be actual structures like buildings or simply legal structures, can only reinforce the values of that state. So so that's where we get environmental and structural racism. So when you have a racist state, that racism is built into the brick and mortar of every school you build, every road you build, every water treatment plant you build has that sort of white supremacist, and if it's a white supremacist, it must be a black oppressive culture by just by the dichotomy that creates. And you can tell people whatever you want, but if they look outside their window and they see something different, that's just their reality.
Yeah. So it permeates through every level of society.